Hey girlfriend, hey. Welcome back to I Hope Pray Love. This is where we talk about faith, structure, accountability, and learning how to account for what matters in your real life, not the life you pretend to have together. Not the life people assume you have because you keep showing up. I'm talking about your real life, your actual capacity, your relationships, your routines, your emotional health, your peace. And I want to make something clear before we get into this teaching. Boundaries are not punishment. They are not revenge. Boundaries are not a way to manipulate people into treating you differently. Boundaries are the structures you create around what you are responsible for, what you have the capacity to give, and what you are no longer willing to carry. A boundary says, this is what I can do. This is when I am available. This is how I am willing to engage. This is what belongs to me. And this is what does not belong to me. The problem is that many women do not set boundaries until they are angry. We wait until we are tired of being called, tired of being asked, tired of being needed, tired of being interrupted, tired of being expected to fix everything. Then we either explode, disappear, or deliver a 5-page explanation because we feel guilty for finally protecting ourselves. But healthy boundaries should not only appear when you reach your breaking point, they should be part of the structure that keeps you from reaching it. So as we discuss these 3 categories, I want you to think through 3 parts of the life method. Locate the gap, identify the drain, find the structure. Where is the boundary missing? What is that missing boundary costing you? And what structure needs to be created so your peace is not dependent on everybody else behaving correctly? The first boundary every woman needs is an access boundary. Access is about who can reach you, how they can reach you, when they can reach you, and how much of you they receive. Everybody does not need the same access to you, girlfriend. That does not mean that you hate people. It means different relationships require different levels of availability, intimacy, information, and responsibility. But we have been taught that being loving means constantly available for people. If someone calls, you answer. If someone texts, you respond immediately. If someone needs to vent, you listen. And if someone has a problem, you help. If someone asks a personal question, you explain. If someone is upset with you, stop everything and repair their feelings. And before long, everybody has access to you except you. You cannot hear your own thoughts because someone is always calling. You cannot rest because someone is always requesting. And you cannot process your own emotions because you are always absorbing somebody else's. Then the phone rings and you are irritated. Before you even see the name, that is information, girlfriend. When we locate the gap in the area of success, we ask, where am I too available? What expects immediate access to me? What has access to personal information they have not handled responsibly? Who contacts me mainly when they need something? Who assumes my availability instead of asking about my capacity? Do I feel obligated to answer every call or message? Do I regularly stop what I am doing to respond to other people's needs? The gap may be that there is no difference between being reachable and being available. Your phone makes you reachable. It does not make you available. The fact that somebody can call does not mean you are required to answer. It's your phone. The fact that someone can see that you read the message does not mean they are entitled to an immediate response. You can leave them on read. The fact that you have helped before does not mean you have entered into a lifetime contract. Next, identify the drain. What happens when people have too much access to you? You may begin to feel resentful, right? You're angry. You may avoid your phone. You may become irritated when certain names appear on the screen. You may feel like you are never fully off duty and you share too much information because you feel pressured to explain yourself, or you become emotionally unavailable to the people in your household because everyone outside your home has already used your energy. Sometimes the drain is not the person. Sometimes the drain is the expectation that you must always be accessible to that person. There is a difference. You may love someone and still need to change how much access they have to your time, your attention, your private life, or your emotional space. Then we find the structure. An access boundary needs a practical structure. You might stop answering non-urgent calls during certain hours. You might use do not disturb. You might decide that some conversations need to be scheduled instead of dropped into your day without warning. You might stop giving detailed explanations about your personal decisions, and you might allow text messages to wait until you have the capacity to respond. You might say, I cannot talk right now. Is this urgent? I do not have the capacity for a long conversation today. I am not available tonight, but I can check in later this week. I am keeping that decision private. I saw your message. I will respond when I have time to give it my attention. Notice that none of those require an argument. They communicate the boundary without building a courtroom case to prove why you deserve one. A boundary does not become more valid because your explanation is longer. Sometimes I am not available is the complete answer, and that's it. The second boundary every woman needs is a time boundary. Your time is one of the clearest representations of your life. You can earn more money, you can replace certain material things, but once your time is spent, you cannot recover it. And yet, many of us protect everyone else's time while treating our own time like community property. We arrive early for other people. We meet their deadlines. We rearrange our schedules. We respond to their emergencies. We respect their appointments. But we allow people to interrupt our rest, delay our priorities, and make last-minute requests as though our day was empty until they needed something. Then we say, I do not have enough time for myself. Sometimes the issue is not that you have no time. Sometimes the issue is that your time has no protection. To locate the gap in your time, boundaries ask, where does my day regularly get taken over? What do I keep agreeing to without checking my schedule? Who regularly makes last minute requests of me? Am I leaving any margin, oh my god, something in my shirt, between responsibilities? Do I schedule rest, or do I only rest when something else is done? Do I treat my own priorities as optional? Do I say yes because I genuinely have time, or because I am afraid of disappointing someone else? A major gap for us is the absence of decision-making space. Someone asks and you answer immediately. You do not check your calendar. You do not consider your energy. You do not discuss it with your family. You do not ask whether it aligns with your priorities. You just say yes, then figure out how to survive the commitment after. One of the most effective time boundaries is learning to stop answering immediately. You can say, let me check my schedule. I need to think about whether I have the capacity. I will get back to you. That small pause can protect you from days or weeks of resentment. Now, identify the drain. A lack of time boundaries can leave you feeling rushed, scattered, and constantly behind. You may struggle to complete your own responsibilities because you are always protecting or reacting to someone else's priorities. You may feel resentful when people ask for help, even when the request itself is reasonable, because you have no margin left. You might find yourself staying up late trying to recover the personal time you did not have during the day. You may scroll for hours at night, not because you are lazy, but because your mind is trying to reclaim a piece of that day that belonged only to you. That pattern is sometimes called revenge bedtime procrastination, but beneath it may be a deeper issue. Your daytime hours do not feel like they belong to you. The drain may also be chronic overcommitment. You are attending things you do not want to attend, leading things you no longer have the capacity to lead, maintaining routines that no longer fit your current season, and doing tasks other capable adults could be doing for themselves. To find the structure, your calendar has to reflect your actual priorities, not just your appointments, your priorities. That may mean creating protected blocks for prayer, rest, family, work, movement, meal preparation, or just quietness. It may mean creating a cutoff time for work communication. It may mean refusing same day requests unless they are genuine emergencies. or scheduling white space instead of filling every available hour. You can say, I need more notice before I can commit. I am not able to add that this week. I can help for 1 hour, but I cannot stay for the entire event. I am no longer available after this time. That does not fit into my schedule right now, and please hear me. Having open space on your calendar does not automatically mean you are available. You do not have to fill every blank space with service to someone else. Rest is a valid use of time. Thinking is a valid use of time. Planning is a valid use of time. Being present with your family is a valid use of time. Doing nothing for a moment is a valid use of time. You do not need to prove that you were busy enough to decline something. The third boundary every woman needs is a boundary around emotional labor. Emotional labor is the work of managing feelings, maintaining connection, anticipating needs, calming conflict, remembering details, checking on everyone, and keeping relationships emotionally functional. Women often perform an enormous amount of emotional labor, enormous, without realizing it. You remember the birthdays, you check on the person who has been quiet, you sense when the mood changes, you mediate the family conflict. You help someone find the right words. You listen to the same problem for the 7th time. You soften every message so nobody feels uncomfortable. You carry the emotional temperature of the room. You explain one person to another. You remind grown adults of their responsibilities. And because much of this work is invisible, people may not recognize how much energy it requires. Emotional support is not bad. Compassion is not bad. Being present for people is not bad. The problem begins when you become responsible for emotional work that belongs to someone else. To locate the gap in emotional labor, ask, whose feelings do I feel responsible for managing? Who repeatedly brings me problems but refuses to take action? Who expects me to calm them, reassure them, or solve their conflict? Do I regularly explain other adults' behavior for them? Am I afraid to set a boundary because of how someone may react? Do I feel responsible for keeping everyone happy? Do I absorb other people's stress and carry it for the rest of the day? Do people ask for my advice and then become upset when I do not tell them what they want to hear? The gap may be that you have confused caring with carrying. You can care about someone else's feelings without carrying responsibility for them. You can acknowledge someone's disappointment without changing your decision. You can support someone without becoming their constant emotional processing center. And you can love someone without fixing every problem that they create. Now, identify the drain. Excessive emotional labor can make you feel heavy, anxious, and emotionally unavailable. You may feel like everybody comes to you, but you have no safe place to go. You become tired after conversations that had nothing to do with your life. You replay other people's problems in your mind, and you feel guilty when you are enjoying yourself because someone you love is struggling. Or how about you spend hours composing a message because you are trying to control how the other person receives it, and you avoid setting necessary boundaries because you do not want to deal with the emotional reaction. That is a drain. And sometimes the most draining part is not the original request. It is the emotional consequence you expect after you say no. You know they may become angry, withdraw, cry, question your love, call you selfish, tell other people a partial version of the story. So you keep saying yes to avoid the reaction. But when you constantly betray your own limits to prevent someone else's discomfort, you are not protecting peace. You are postponing conflict and internalizing the cost. To find the structure around emotional labor, you have to return responsibility to the correct person. You cannot listen without fixing. Well, you can listen without fixing and acknowledge without absorbing, support without rescuing. You can say, I am sorry you are dealing with that. What do you think your next step should be? I can listen for a few minutes, but I do not have the capacity for a long conversation. And I mentioned that before. Or I care about you, but I cannot make this decision for you. I understand that you were disappointed. My decision is still the same. I do not want to continue this I do not want to continue discussing the same issue if nothing is going to change. Or this may be something you need to process with a counselor or another qualified professional. How about, I am not comfortable being placed in the middle of this conflict. I've had to do that before at work, like seriously. These statements do not remove compassion. They remove false responsibility. Jesus showed compassion, but he did not make himself constantly accessible to everyone. He withdrew. He rested. He prayed privately. He did not answer every demand. He did not chase every person who disagreed with him. He remained clear about his assignment. So, boundaries are not a rejection of faith. They can be an expression of wisdom and stewardship. You cannot fulfill every role for every person. You were not created to be everybody's counselor, crisis manager, emotional support system, prayer warrior, personal assistant, and emergency contact at all hours of the day. You can love deeply and still have limits. Access, time, and emotional labor are connected. Someone gains access to you. That access consumes your time. Then the interaction requires emotional labor. This is why one phone call can leave you drained for the rest of the evening. The problem may not be the 10 minutes spent answering. The problem may be the emotional weight you carried after the call ended. So when you feel irritated, overwhelmed, or resistant, pause before judging yourself. Locate the gap. What boundary is missing? Is this person receiving too much access? Is this request taking time I do not have? Am I being asked to perform emotional work that does not belong to me? Then identify the drain. What is this costing me? Is it costing me peace, sleep, focus, patience, time with my family, time with God, energy for my own responsibilities? Then find the structure. What needs to change practically? Do I need communication hours, a response delay, a scheduled conversation, a time limit, a private decision, a repeated phrase, a referral to another source of support? A boundary is not only something you announce, it is something you structure. You cannot say you are protecting your evenings while answering every non-urgent call during dinner. You cannot say you need rest while continuing to accept last-minute commitments. You cannot say you are no longer carrying someone emotionally while continuing to solve every problem they bring to you. Your structure must agree with your boundary. When you start setting boundaries, not everyone will celebrate. Some people benefited from the version of you who had none. They benefited from the immediate responses, unlimited availability, last minute help, emotional rescue, long explanations, automatic forgiveness, without change behavior. So when you change the pattern, they may call you different. Oh, she acting funny. And they will be correct. You are different. You are becoming more honest about your capacity. You are no longer calling resentment love. You are no longer treating exhaustion as proof that you are a good woman. You are no longer making yourself endlessly available in order to feel valuable. Someone's frustration with your boundary does not automatically mean the boundary is wrong. Sometimes their frustration is simply evidence that the old arrangement worked better for them and not for you. You do not need everyone to agree with the boundary for it to be necessary, but you do need to communicate clearly, remain consistent, and avoid using boundaries as threats. A healthy boundary is not, if you do not do what I want, I am cutting you off. A healthy boundary sounds more like, if the conversation becomes disrespectful, I will end the call. You are not controlling their behavior. You are communicating what you will do in response. That is the difference between a boundary and an ultimatum designed to control. I want you to think of one relationship or situation that has been draining you. Do not immediately focus on whether the other person is good or bad. Ask yourself, what level of access does this person currently have? How much time am I giving this situation? What emotional labor am I performing? Where is the gap? What is the drain? What structure would protect my peace? Maybe the answer is not ending the relationship. Maybe it is changing your availability. Maybe you stop answering during work. You limit your conversation to 30 minutes. Maybe you stop discussing a private part of your life and you stop giving someone who has already decided not to use it, you stop giving them access. Maybe you allow another adult to experience the natural consequences of their choices, or you stop explaining your no. You say, I love you, but I do not have the capacity for this today. That is not cruel. That is clarity. The boundaries every woman needs to protect her peace are not complicated, but they require honesty. You do not need to protect. You need to protect access to you. You need to protect your time, and you need to protect yourself from carrying emotional labor that does not belong to you. When irritation shows up, do not immediately condemn yourself. Listen, it may be information. It may be showing you that you are too accessible, too overcommitted, too emotionally responsible for something that is not yours. Locate the gap, identify the drain, and find the structure. Then hold the boundary long enough for your life to adjust to it, because peace is not only something you pray for. Peace is also something you must create room for. You cannot ask God for peace while giving stress and chaos unlimited access. You cannot ask for rest while allowing everyone else to control your time. And you cannot ask to feel lighter while continuing to carry every person's emotional weight. Prayer matters, but so does structure. But so does structure, sorry. If you are listening to this and realizing that you do not even know where to begin, start with the free life inventory checklist. The reason will help you look at the major areas of your life, locate the gaps, and recognize what may be draining your peace. You do not have to fix everything today. Start by telling the truth about what needs attention. The life inventory checklist is linked in the description. If you have already completed the life inventory checklist and you see the gaps but need help determining what to do next, book the life inventory audit. So during the audit, we will go deeper into what is draining you, what needs structure, and what your next reset should focus on. You can book the life inventory audit at ihopepraylove.com. I'll put that in the description as well. Do not keep collecting information about a life that needs a decision. You have located the gap. You have identified the drain. Now it is time to find the structure. Comment and tell me which boundary you need most right now. Access, time, or emotional labor. You do not have to share the full story. Just name the category. And if this teaching helped you understand why you have been feeling irritated, tired, or emotionally drained, share it with another woman who needs permission to protect her peace. Subscribe for more faith-based teachings on boundaries, life inventory, structure, and accountability, and building a reset that works in your real life.